Hey everybody, I'm here to talk to you about chapter 8 of the book called The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. Chapter 8 begins, Frederick is talking about his old master who originally owned him named Master Anthony dies. So when he died, when his master named Anthony died, he had to travel back to where he's originally from, and they were going to have what's called evaluation. Okay, evaluation, the way Frederick made it seem, it was a assessment of all the property that the slave owner owned. That included animals, that included places to live, like houses. It also included slaves, all the property that vehicles or whatever they traveled in, wagons back then, horses, they were all put in a line. They were a value was put on it. If the person had sons and daughters, they would be basically the stuff would be divided up amongst them. So they have what was called a valuation. Frederick talks about the impact that this had on him when he was standing there in line with animals and things like that. This really put a negative, a bad taste in his mouth about the whole slave experience in general. He says that that's when he realized that slavery had a negative impact, not only on slaves, but it also had it on the slave owners. One of the things that could happen during evaluation is that there could be a separation. Okay, now and they were all worried about the slaves would be sold off or given to maybe one of the sons or daughters who was mean or something like that. So they were really worried about being given to a slave owner who was going to treat them bad, because he had kind of gotten accustomed to being with a slave owner that had not whipped him and stuff a lot. But there was also some that were very cruel, and all the slaves dreaded the separation because they could possibly sold to someone who was very cruel and very mean, even though the whole existence of slavery was just bad anyways, but they made it worse by just being very cruel. But anyways, Frederick was sent back to Baltimore to live with one of his slave owner's daughters named Lucretia. His name was Master Hugh. Shortly after Lucretia, she died, and his slave owner also died. So he was kind of upset because they figured if everybody's died off, maybe they'll set us free, but nobody was set free. So this is something else that gave him a bad taste in his mouth. He also talks about his grandmother, who was on the plantation, who basically was the one who had all these children, who took care of all the responsibilities of the plantation over those years, even took care of the master and his children. Okay, took care of everybody. This woman was the person on the plantation who was really probably one of the most important. And she had gotten old. She hadn't gotten in her elderly years and senior years, and so they let her go free. They built her a house in the woods, they said. Now this lady, keep in mind, she was old enough, she couldn't work anymore and stuff like that. She couldn't really do anything. They built her a house in the woods and took her out in the woods and let her live on her own. But he felt like this was punishment because she was at the point now where she couldn't do anything for herself. So how was she going to get food? How was she going to eat? How was she going to do things for herself? She didn't really have the strength to do it anymore. And he felt bad about that. He felt like he had a bad taste in his mouth about that. At the end of the chapter, it talks about how Frederick, he started to have feelings again of wanting to run away, and he started to look for opportunities to become free again. Not to be free again, but to be free. He started to think about escaping slavery. So the thoughts started to come back into his head again of looking for opportunities to escape. He was also on his way back to before the evaluation. He was looking at the routes that they took on the boats and the directions that they were going from north to south to see, to remember it, to keep a picture in his head so he knew which directions to travel and things like that. So this was chapter 8 of the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. This was chapter 8. Thank you.